Teach us how to pray. Teach us what to say. Teach us how to love. Oh my Lord, teach us how to pray.
Hello, my name is Basil Valente, and I'm a Franciscan friar from Holy Name Province, and I'm the vocation director for the province. Right now I have the privilege of working with all sorts of young men from throughout the country, actually, but mostly on the eastern seacoast, who are interested in joining the Franciscans. And it's a real privilege to do that ministry, and I've been doing that for about 4 years. But something else that's very interesting and exciting for me at this time of the church year is Lent. And recently I was asked to reflect on a question in Lent that was this. And as I thought about that initially, I came up with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of sins that I'm personally guilty of and sorry for. But given the short reflection, I centered on two bad habits, if you will, that draw me away from the Lord, but pieces that I have to work on. One of those bad habits, if you will, is impatience, and the other bad habit is worry. I think one could say that impatience is considered maybe a subtle bad habit, but at the same time, I think it can be very destructive for our spiritual lives. I think many of us are probably caught up in, our own work, our own ministry, our own lives at home, and our lives with our friends, our lives with our co-workers. And there are things that we need to have accomplished, and sometimes it's impossible, or seemingly impossible, to get those things accomplished. And so we become very impatient, and it allows us to draw away from our neighbor, not with, a sense of loving approach, but a sense of distance and a sense of course, impatience. But the other bad habit, if you will, that I have is worry. I'm able to control that outwardly, but actually I worry quite a lot. And quite honestly, I don't know why. But I think we tend to think of worry as something that's inevitable. And a lot of people have told me that everybody worries, and I'm not certain that that's the case. I'm not certain that that's the case because I've met people who experience fear and they experience anxiety, but yet they don't seem to be worrying. And why might that be the case? Well, I believe that's the case because they have maybe a deeper or closer center with God. And that's the challenge for me, is to go back and see what God is inviting me into. And the season of Lent is the perfect opportunity to do that. Now, there's a book that I found particularly useful, perhaps for the last 40 years of my life. And it's a book by Henry Nouwen, a very famous spiritual author, but it's titled Making All Things New. And he speaks about worry and impatience and how those two habits can lead us away from the love of God, and how we as ordinary human beings, as fallible human beings, could put our trust in God more strongly than we might take the opportunity to do. And I believe that this Lent is calling us to do just that. It's calling me, it's calling us to be more closely attached to God and experience a love of neighbor that we might not be as centered on. And Henry Nouwen does a wonderful job of taking, or I guess inviting us to understand our imperfections, own those imperfections, and not worry about them, but rather center ourselves on the love of God and the way God loves us, so we can make a true difference in our own life, in the lives of the men and women with whom we encounter. Peace, blessings to each of you.
Lord, teach us how to pray. Teach us what to say. Teach us how to love. Oh, my Lord, teach us how to pray.